Abu Ghraib. Let's talk about that, because I remember seeing those images, and of course I watched them on your TED Talk, and they were shocking to the world. I guess what shocked me more than anything is you got these young, innocent-looking men and women. I mean, the girl looks like she's from Iowa, grew up on a farm, and next to a boy, posing in front of this naked mess of abused, tortured Iraqis.
Dragging him around by a leash on his neck. Yeah, so again, it was...
Can you explain to people what happened there, and then, you know?
Two things happened. So, it's a war that's still going on, and it's really the curse of George Bush and his cabinet. We were 1 month away. America was 1 month away from victory in Afghanistan. We were also talking about destroying the poppy farms, and suddenly he says we're going to take all the troops from Afghanistan, because we almost won that, and bring them to Iraq. And we're going to show Saddam Hussein what, I guess they call it the shock and awe campaign. We're going to bomb the shit out of them. We're going to blast them with all of our might. We got naval might, air might. And then, if you remember, George Bush goes on an aircraft carrier in a military uniform and says, "Mission accomplished." The next day, American tanks, American Humvees, American Jeeps are being blown up by something called improvised explosive devices, IEDs. We didn't even know what that was. And we had assumed the Iraqis were happy to be liberated, but they were not. We didn't realize there are different sects, Sunnis and Shiites and Kurds, who never agree, who always were at each other's throats. And suddenly, the CIA and the American military had not a clue of who this new enemy was. So they started arresting all the men and boys around any explosion and putting them in a prison. And it was an old prison called Abu Ghraib. That was the name of the prison. And they started interrogating these guys, and they got nothing, no information, because some of them, they just happened to be around an explosion. And so what happened was, the head of military intelligence goes to the head of military police and says, "We want your guards on the night shift to help us get," the phrase is actionable intelligence. That is, we want them to take the gloves off. We want them to use whatever means they have, that when we interrogate them, they're going to spill the beans. Now, they only told that to the night shift and not to the day shift. And so the head of military intelligence lines up these 9 soldiers. I think there were 3 women and 6 men, because but they're all on the night shift. The night shift is like 12 hours, you know. And again, if you talk about the power of the situation, at the end of their shift, they went to sleep in a prison cell in a different part of the prison. They never left the prison. The prison was also under bombardment from cannons across the street. So it was really a dangerous place for everybody. One of the guys who was in charge of the night shift is named Chip Frederick, but none of the guards were real soldiers. They were Army reservists, and they have no prestige among real soldiers. They never went to boot training. And he's put in charge of the night shift. He never was in charge of anything, but he was a staff sergeant. He's also in charge of 60 Iraqi policemen who are there. They don't speak English. He doesn't speak Iraqi language, and the guards are really smuggling drugs in and helping prisoners escape. You know, so he's overwhelmed. He's beyond it. And what happens is, again, the guards have I think it's 12-hour shift, and they begin to say, you know, let's have fun with these prisoners. It's such a boring thing, and it's not clear how it started, who it started, and they said. And it was the start of digital cameras. And they started saying, okay, let's put the prisoners, let's do something nobody's ever seen. Let's strip the prisoners naked, put them in a pyramid, and we'll take a picture of them with us giving the high five. And then once you did that, that's old. So each night they would think of something more interesting, more dramatic. And what they did is they documented it with these photos. They had a CD with, actually there's more than 1,000 photos, which I had to view because I became an expert witness in the trial of this Chip Frederick.
When you first saw those pictures,
Horrible.
Did you know exactly what had happened?
I couldn't even imagine. They were so extreme. I mean, you know, it's dragging prisoners around, you know, by a leash, having dogs actually bite prisoners, you know, torturing prisoners in ways that were, you know, like medieval, in the Middle Ages. But then being proud of what they were doing, because they were saying, hey, we might only be Army Reserve, but nobody has ever done what we're doing. So what happened was, it was exposed by a soldier, Joe Darby, again, who's one of the heroes. He's like Mazdak, but he took the CD with these photos, brought it to a senior officer and said, you know, this is what's happening every night. You can't allow this to go on. And he knew he was going to be in trouble because these are his buddies. So they shut down the night shift. All the guys were then put in solitary, guys and girls. And then they all got this dishonorable discharge, and some of them went to trial. Chip Frederick, now they're all guilty. They're in the picture. You know, there's no question. And Chip Frederick said, I'm guilty. I don't know why I did, but, you know, I spent a day with him and his wife, his family. I checked out everything in his back. He's a really good guy. He had won 12 medals and awards before. When he was in Kuwait, he used to work with Kuwaiti children. People loved him. And I said, how could you do that? He said, I have no idea. I went down, and other people were doing it, and suddenly there I was. People said, smile. And I go like this, you know, and next thing they show me, hey, look at this great picture. And so in his trial, I was able to say to the chief judge, Chip Frederick is guilty as charged, sir. He admits it, and I say so too. However, it is my psychological opinion that he never would have done any of those things, which are reprehensible, that he feels I feel, had he not been put in an untenable situation by the higher-ups. That everything I know about him, had he been on the day shift, and there were no abuses on the day shift, every guard on the night shift abused prisoners to varying degrees, no guard on the day shift. I said, Your Honor, that's what you call a situational difference, a situational variable. And so, had he been on the day shift, we wouldn't be here.